He's involved in a movie that came out 6 months ago called Saving Lincoln, which was the beginning of the Secret Service, and he did quite a lot of work on that, and it's a beautiful movie. And right now, let's just have Daniel Lamb talk. Let's give a warm Detroit welcome. Daniel Lamb, the director of this movie.
Thank you. I think both Jeff and Sterling were a little overboard in describing me, but I appreciate it, and it means a lot coming from both of them. If any guys, I'm assuming plenty of people know, I've known Jeff and I've known John for a while, but if you have, you've probably known them longer than I have. It's just in the last year that I was introduced by Sterling kind of by way of Audra. And we knew that they were looking to put together kind of a memoir of the career that Jeff has led. And so they came over and we had kind of a really excellent conversation. What became clear really immediately was that there was a movie here. It wasn't just, a lot of people had really cool lives and done really cool things. It's like, I looked up the man's Wikipedia page, which is impressive. I recommend everybody do that. Yeah. That was kind of the first, little exposure. But the more he talked, the more it was clear that there was a movie here. There were really high highs and low lows, and he had a lot to say. And it wasn't the same things that you hear. And even now, with these issues kind of more out front than they've been, maybe ever, at least in a long time, there's a lot that he has to say that's still controversial. That's still not part of what the mainstream, of that wave has to say. And on top of that, that, I mean, like his obvious natural charisma makes him an excellent storyteller. There's some hilarious stuff, and the more stories I heard, the more it was like it was almost going to become hard to whittle this down. An excellent part of all this is that they'd already, before they talked to me, they'd already enlisted Craig Foley to do to interview him, to have a conversation to be the basis of this movie. So that made my work a lot easier because there's not really a better interviewer you're going to find. Certainly not in the region, and there's not many anywhere. So since the fundraiser, we've gone ahead and we've held that conversation. We've shot about the 3+ hours, 3.5 hours. I think we did of them kind of going at it. One of the things that immediately attracted me to taking this on was that Jeff didn't want to know what the questions were going to be, and Craig really wanted to surprise him and wanted to challenge him. And one of the things that Jeff said immediately was he didn't want to be, in that first conversation, he didn't want to be controlling this project. He didn't want it to be some kind of vanity project. He didn't want it to be kind of this personality thing. It's like he'd been kind of coached to do this, I think, a lot by John, and he was right. But he didn't want to be in the way of the way he was going to be portrayed. So he's been gracious enough to, maybe foolish enough to trust that story and the kind of the editing and putting that together into my hands. And I hope to do the story justice. I've got a little more. So we shot that conversation. We've done some other little bits. We have a lot. There's a lot still to go. There's a lot of one of the major things, and I would say, in addition to to asking you obviously to contribute financially to this project as we move forward, almost more important is many of you that know Jeff or have been around in the community who have photographs, who have maybe videos, know where to find these things. Maybe you have an in at a local news station or something like that. Throughout his career, he was on television a ton. He was in the media a ton, and we've got a lot of that stuff, but there's a lot more we don't have, and some of the real kind of crown jewels we're still looking for. There's an interaction with Bill Clinton at a town hall meeting before he was president. There's some kind of toe-to-toe with some Army generals that we know was on TV back in the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, one of the earlier rounds of that battle. So if you know anything, if there's anything that you want to contribute in terms of even stories, materials, we're definitely in that phase of gathering everything and putting it all together. Those of you that know Jeff, we're going to go beyond. A lot of the movie is going to be him talking. It's going to be this conversation between he and Craig Foley, and that'll be really compelling. But we want to dig deeper into kind of some archival stuff. We want to talk to people that he helped, the Triangle Foundation helped, or that impacted them, maybe a positive, maybe a negative way. It's like, we're interested in feedback, and so anybody who has something to say, wants to be a part of this project even more, maybe even be in the movie. Like there's, you can contact, when you talk to any of us tonight, but also there's that website, jeffreymontgomery.net, and you can get a hold of John through that. And I want to reemphasize what Jeff said about the work that Mark Balteri has been doing, and in terms of organizing all of this, and and those meetings coming together with really kind of a battle plan for how we're going to tackle all this stuff. And yeah, it's definitely not, this is like I've got my work cut out for me. The interview's incredible. There's a lot of work, and it's a lot of I feel like there's definitely there's pressure in terms of just being able to do this right, because this can be a really good movie. It can be a really compelling movie that goes beyond people in this room, people that know Jeff, beyond people who are even interested in gay and lesbian rights. It's a human rights kind of thing, and he has a manner about the way that he speaks that can talk to anybody, and I think that's incredibly valuable. You saw in the trailer we seeded some little bits of history in there, and that stuff's really important. When you started dropping some of those facts, it was stuff that I didn't know, like the fact that a lot of the people in concentration camps who've been put there, the pink triangles for being homosexuals, like they weren't let back out. I mean, they weren't in the camps, but it's not they weren't turned free. That was crazy to me. And yet he's got a lot more kind of where that came from. So it's a memoir of this one activist and kind of his struggles and all that, but it's also hopefully going to touch on the whole, the sort of historical nature and the big picture. So that's what they brought me in to do, and I'm going to try to do my best. There's a little more I'm going to show here. There's not sound to it, but you can see some of what we shot and a little bit of the archival stuff that we still have. All the music you heard in that trailer, by the way, was by Audrey Kubani. Some of her newer kind of experimental stuff. You can get the hands on it. The idea for the setting comes from Jeff or John. It comes from the Montgomerys anyway, and wanting to have the city at his back, and kind of the city glittering and lit up behind him, which is just a great way of putting that. Some of the archival stuff we've gotten a hold of. Jeff was in an A&E documentary about the Matthew Shepard trial, and here's some fun footage we dug out of that. So when we asked you to contribute and be part of this, it probably helps to hear where some of that goes. There's a hard cost. There's things like hard drives and all the sort of the actual tools that you're using to capture these things and to go out in the field and to go out and and talk to people and interviews and all that kind of stuff. There's the footage that we don't have the rights to. There's stuff that it's of him, but we're still gonna end up we're gonna end up paying for a lot of rights. We're gonna end up having to dig a lot of that stuff up, and there's a lot of fees kind of rack up in those different places, and a lot of times in a big way it's time. It's the time to for the whole team here to kind of jump on this thing. When you do a project like this and kind of do it just kind of on the side of all the other things you're doing, these things tend to never get done, or they tend to take a long time. And so when you put the forward, it's like there's a lot of those hard costs, but you're also helping to support just to accelerate and make this happen in a timely fashion. And everybody appreciates that. So I'm going to stop talking. But thank you all for being here, and let's hear for Jeff Montgomery.